The question how much for a sleeve is asked so often that it's become a running joke in the industry amongst tattoo artists. It's a perfectly legitimate question, but the reason it's become somewhat of a bit is not because of the question, but because the answer is very complicated. But there's really one simple correct answer to this question, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now. It depends. In today's video, we're going to be examining some of the factors that go into the pricing of a full sleeve. Then we'll go into some tips and other things to consider before booking a sleeve. If you stick around to the end of the video, we're going to give you some concrete numbers to give you a very ballpark expectation for what you can expect to pay for a sleeve. So let's get into it. There are two main factors that determine how much a sleeve is going to cost. One, how long the sleeve is going to take, and two, what the artist charges. And before we even get into that, let's set some parameters for this discussion just for the sake of simplicity. Let's assume we're only working with one artist for the full sleeve, and that full sleeve means a shoulder to wrist tattoo with full coverage on both sides of the arm. Those two things can also vary, but this discussion is going to be complicated enough, so let's just stick with that. So first we'll need to examine how long the sleeve is going to take, which depends on what style you're working with, what subject matters you're working with, how fast the artist is, whether you're wanting black and gray or color, and how big your arm is. The one thing to know about sleeves is that whatever combination of those factors you're working with, you're looking at a project that's going to take multiple full days of tattooing. Sleeves take a long time, and it's not something that can be done in a few hours or even a full day. For that reason, we're going to talk about how long sleeves take in terms of full day sessions rather than hours. The style is going to be the biggest factor in this because different styles take different amounts of time. Realism is generally a lot more time consuming than styles with less small details like neo-traditional. For example, this tattoo by Jade took 2 full sessions and this tattoo by Gio took 1 full session. Subject matter also plays a big role. For example, a Medusa tattoo like this one is filled with lots of small details in the scales and a subject matter that's really tough to get right, like a portrait, whereas a tattoo that involves space is going to take less time. And then, generally speaking, color takes about twice as long as black and gray because of the technique used to saturate color, as well as the process of determining and mixing colors. So for example, this piece by Jade took 2 sessions and this piece took 1 session. And then some artists are just faster than others because of the techniques that they use. For example, this piece by Monique took 4 sessions and this piece by Deanna took 1 session. And then you have to consider just the size of your arm. For example, this piece was done on a client that's 5'2" and this client was done on a client that's 6'3". So how many sessions or hours does a full sleeve actually take? In our experience, the fastest we've ever seen a sleeve done is about 5 full days of tattooing. Full days can be anywhere from 5 to 10 hours, but generally they're about 6 to 8 hours of tattoo time. And then the most we've ever seen a sleeve take is 10 full sessions, but we've also heard of artists that say they could take up to 12 sessions for a full sleeve. Now that we've talked about how long a full sleeve can take, let's talk about how artists charge. Most artists in our experience either charge by the hour or charge a flat rate for a full day's worth of work. Not only do artists work at different speeds, but some of them prefer to take different times in sessions. For example, some artists work as little as 5 to 6 hours in a day, and some artists will work up to 10 or even 12 hours in a day. Now let's get into some tips and things to consider before starting a sleeve. First, provide all the information your tattoo artist needs to get you an estimate. This normally includes a list of subject matters you're wanting, photos of your arm, and reference photos of your tattoos. Artists that have a lot of experience doing sleeves generally can get you a ballpark price, but that's only if you get them all the information that they need. And then keep in mind, tattooing it is an art form, and with any art form things can change, so that estimate is subject to change. But you should be able to get a pretty good picture of what the whole thing's going to cost. Next, keep in mind that a sleeve is a long process. It's a little bit like eating an elephant. Even if you have the money to drop the cost of the whole sleeve at once, generally the most your body can handle at a time is 2 full days of tattooing, and that's about the limit of what most artists will do. So you can maybe do a sleeve in 2 to 4 weeks if it works with your artist's schedule and process, but realistically speaking, this is going to take you months. That means the payment is going to be split up over time. The other thing to consider with this is you don't have to commit to the full sleeve all at once. If you wanted to start with just one tattoo or one part of your arm, your artist can design it so it's going to look good and finished after the session is completed, but you can come back and add to it later. We recommend that whatever you're going to do, you let the artist know ahead of time so they know for planning and design purposes. It's also important to note that artist rates can change, so if you're going to spend a long time between sessions, it's important to ask them their policy on changing rates. We also recommend if you're not able to afford the sleeve you want right now, don't compromise. A full sleeve is a huge commitment in time and money, so if you're not able to afford it right now, just wait. Treat it like saving up for a vacation. If you cut corners and go to a subpar artist just to get coverage, it could cost you thousands of dollars in laser removal or cover-up tattoos, or you could be stuck with the tattoo you don't like for the rest of your life. The final thing to consider in the cost is tipping. There's really no tattoo industry standard on how much to tip or whether even to tip at all. In our own experience, most clients tip about 15% of the total cost of the tattoo. But again, that's by no means a requirement, and we'd be hard pressed to find any artist that's going to be upset if you don't tip. but at the same time, it's always welcomed and appreciated. Okay, now as promised, let's break down the total cost of all of this. And before we get into that, if you found this video helpful, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this and awesome tattoos. So if you haven't done the math already, this is gonna get pricey. We're gonna share some market rates with you and how they can translate to the cost of the sleeve. This is by no means a rule, and there are exceptions to everything. So generally speaking, the lower end of market rates we've seen for quality artists is about $150 an hour or $1,000 for a full day session. And as we mentioned before, about 5 sessions is the low end for how long a sleeve could take. That means you're looking at a base price of about $5,000 for a full sleeve. A pretty typical market rate in our experience is about $200 an hour or $1,500 for a full day session. Sleeves take about 6 to 7 sessions on average. And with anything pricing, sky's the limit to how much you can spend. Day rates in Texas can be as high as $4,500 a day, but if you're getting tattooed in New York or LA, you could spend $5,000 or even up to $7,000 a day. Using our previous figure of up to 10 sessions for a full sleeve, that means you could be spending upwards of $50,000 for a full sleeve depending on the artist you're going to. Thanks for sticking around through this video. I know that was a lot of information, so if you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments. And don't be shy, drop how much you paid for your sleeve or how much you were quoted for a sleeve. Make sure to subscribe to Eden TV for more content like this.